Welcome to the part 2 where we'll talk about some commonalities these languages share, starting with syntax similarities. Control structures. Loops. In C and C++, the for loop helps iterate from 0 to 9. Printing each value, you include initialization, condition, and increment expression inside parameter. Java handles loops similarly with a familiar syntax that also includes initialization, condition, and increment expression. System out print is used to print each value. Moving on to Python, it uses the range function in its for loop to achieve the same result. The syntax is a bit simpler, just call the print function. In JavaScript, the for loop syntax mirrors of C, C++, and Java. Here console.log handles the output. For conditionals in C and C++, we use if, else if, and else statements to perform different action based on conditions. For example, checking if x is positive, negative, or 0 and printing the corresponding message. Java works similarly using system out print for output based on the value of x. Python simplifies this a bit with if, elif, and else. The print function handles output depending on x's value. And in JavaScript, we again use if, else if, and else with console.log displaying the message. Let's talk about basic data types. In C and C++, basic data types include int for integers, float, and char for strings. Here's how you declare each variable. In Java, you also have int for integers, float for floating point numbers, but for strings, you can use string class. Float values also need a f suffix. Python is dynamically typed, meaning you don't have to specify the type when declaring a variable. You simply assign values directly. In JavaScript, we declare a variable using let, and it supports integers, floating point numbers, and in strings. As in Python, values are assigned directly. Programming paradigms. Let's talk about some basic programming paradigm. Procedural programming involves organizing code into functions. And C and C++, you might define a function named greet that prints hello world. In Java, we define a class named greet with a system out print which prints the message. In Python, we define a class greet and the print statement prints the message. Now let's take a look at object-oriented programming. In C++, we define a class animal with a method speak that prints animal speaks. In Java, it's similar, but everything is encapsulated within classes, and we use system out print. Python also supports object-oriented programming with classes and methods and uses the def keyword for method definitions. In JavaScript, you might define a class animal with a method speak that prints animal speak using console.log. Functions or methods to encapsulate code. In C and C++, functions are used to encapsulate reusable code. For example, defining a function name add that takes two integers and returns their sum. In Java, you define a method named add that does the same. Python handles this with a function named add, while JavaScript uses a function keyword to achieve same result. Thank you for watching the part 2 of the video. Let